Hey, I'm Emily and welcome to my channel where I share about all things design related that I'm working on. Today I am honing into my job as a wedding and event florist, and I'm showing you a few different ways that you can add flowers to rectangular tables. Rectangular tables are a super popular choice for weddings and events, and I work with them all the time. Often people will place them kind of just on their own as a single table, or sometimes we'll put them all together to create one really long table. Rectangular tables come with a ton of different decor options and you can get super creative. I've seen so many beautiful tablescapes and many of them don't even include flowers or have very minimal flowers. However, as a florist, I am definitely focusing on the different ways that you can decorate your table with flowers today. So I'm going to show you 5-ish of my favorite ways, and hopefully it just gives you some ideas and inspiration for your own tables. So to show you these different designs, I've just set up a simple dining table in my living room using the supplies that I had on hand. But if you are working on an event, you will probably work with your venue or a planner or an event company to go through things like your table linens and plates and cutlery and all of that. I have just kept this table super simple so that I have a nice base to show you all of the flowers. Before we get started, I am just going to show you a few candles because if you have ever done any extensive Pinterest searching, I'm sure you will know that candles add a ton to a tablescape design. So these are the 3 broad types of candles that I use commonly with events. The first is a pillar candle. So they come in these glass hurricanes and they're the candles that are kind of wider than the rest of them. Next is a taper candle, and these are the tall and skinny candles. There are so many different types of holders that you can choose that will suit the design of your event. And they're really fun because you can also choose them in a color that will complement your event, which also goes for the pillar candles actually. Although I typically use the pillar candles in white. It's just my go-to style. And then the final is a votive candle. So these are the ones that are kind of small cups. They're the most affordable and they just look beautiful because you can add a lot of light to your table for not a lot of cost. This first table design just uses really light greenery placed on the table. It's kind of similar to the overall look that a garland gives. I'm sure if you've done any Pinterest searching for weddings and events, you've seen lots of beautiful images of lush garlands on tables. However, I find that if you're working with a more narrow table like this, or even if your tables are placed individually as opposed to all together in a long row, I really love the look of something that's a bit more delicate, like the vines that I have used here. Regardless of how thick you choose to go with a garland, I find that candles are the thing that bring the look together and make it really come to life. I especially like to use pillar candles and votive candles when I'm doing greenery in any way on a table. For this design, I had a few pairs on hand, and I do love adding some fruit or other elements to a simple table like this. I just think it looks really pretty. And this is even a design that you could easily translate to your own family table at Christmas or Thanksgiving. Next up, I am going to show you 2 different ways that you can use bud vases to make a really pretty table design on a rectangular table. So the first kind of bud vase is like this. So it's kind of just a miniature mixed flower arrangement. Usually I'll just use maybe 2 to 5 stems in these. And on a longer table, this is a really pretty look. So depending on if you are serving your meal family style or not, this can be a good option because you can space them down the table further apart in a way that would allow for the serving dishes. But if you are doing a plated meal, then you can also place these a little bit more uniformly and close down the table. This is the first way that I like to do bud vases, and that is kind of putting them in clusters down the table. So you can do a pairing of them, or I sometimes do as many as 3 of them together. You can do them on their own, but pair them with some candles. It really depends on the look you want for your tablescape. I love pairing bud vases with votive candles because I find that they're a nice scale to complement the bud vases and they don't take over like the way that a pillar candle might. This second bud vase design takes a little bit more of a simple minimalist approach and uses just one variety of flower and one stem per vase. So I think this works really well when you have a flower like these anemones that are just so unique. And if you were to do this on many tables in a room or on a long table, I think the overall look would just be really simple, but also super striking. Next up, I'm going to get into showing you some options using traditional centerpieces. The one that I have made is very in line with my personal style in that it's quite organic in its shape, but these designs can of course be tailored to suit the design of your wedding. So if you like something that's a bit more formal or structured, this kind of scheme definitely still works. So I always like to start by placing one beautiful centerpiece in the middle of the table. Depending on how many other elements you have on the table, you may feel that you need more. So on an 8-foot table, you could do 2 centerpieces, or to make it feel a bit more balanced, 3 is really nice. Saying this, if you have a lot of other things on your table, like multiple pieces of glassware, coffee or tea plates, along with bread plates, then you might find that 3 arrangements is just too much. So what I sometimes suggest is just one in the center with a nice cluster of candles on either side. And if you would like to add more flowers to the table, then I like to try something like a bud vase or 2 on either side as well. They just take up a little bit less space than another centerpiece, but they still make your table feel complete because they aren't empty on either end of the table. If you're putting multiple tables together, that's when a repetition of centerpieces can be really beautiful. So the spacing that you put them down the tables, that will depend usually on your budget and the look you're going for. So you can put them quite close together for a really lush look, or you can space them out more with just candles or bud vases in between for a little bit of a lighter look. This final design is pretty similar to the previous one in that it has kind of a repetition of like elements down the table, but this time I've just used a small arrangement that is probably about 1/4 the size of a centerpiece. I really love these pieces because I just think they have a kind of unique design and they have a really light and airy feel. So I find this is nice if you feel that a centerpiece is just a little bit too heavy for your table, or you might feel that bud vases are too busy to get kind of the impact that you want. So again, if you are dealing with a really long table, this is super beautiful to be repeated down that table, but it also works really well just on a single 8-foot table. I find that 3 is kind of the perfect mix on an 8-foot table with some candles in between, like this. On a longer table, you can repeat it like it is here. You can space them out more. You can alternate them with centerpiece arrangements or bud vases. You can probably tell by now there are a million different options when you're working with the design of a rectangular table. So today I shared with you, I think 5 or 6 of my favorite ways to decorate a rectangular table. And I hope that it's given you just a little bit of inspiration to start thinking about whatever tables you have to decorate. If you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.